Hello and welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport. My name's Lewis Daniels and my guest today is two-time kidney transplant recipient, actor and co-host of the Professional Patients podcast, Ruban Nathan. Ruban chats to me about his lifelong experience of kidney problems, including having his first transplant at the age of 10 and his time on dialysis years later. We also talk about going through school with kidney problems and a transplant, especially when it comes to sport, how he adapted and the challenges faced. On top of all that, you'll find out more about the Professional Patients podcast, a brilliant podcast that Ruban co-hosts, so please listen all the way to the end. If you're enjoying the podcast, please make sure you press subscribe or follow wherever you normally listen, so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to follow the podcast on social media, all the links will be in the show notes. It's another Professional Patients crossover. Ruban Nathan, welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. It's a wonderful day. Today is actually World Nurses Day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. I've seen something about that this morning.
I think so, yeah. So I think I just want to start off by saying shout out to all the wonderful nurses that have had the pain and the pleasure of taking care of me throughout this life that I've lived. But yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. To answer your question, sorry, I do a lot of the word vomit, so I will go here and there. So all the best is all I can say. But yeah,
That's fine. We could go with it. You're a professional patient, as you say on your podcast.
yeah,
You've been doing this for many, many years. In a sporting sense, if you're a professional, I'm probably recently got a professional contract playing in the under-23s.
Well, there you go. That's wicked. In a sporting sense, I'm so far from being professional, but thank you for giving me that parallel. Professional patients is interesting because I think the idea of it is like, I've just been unwell basically all my life. I was born with renal failure, right? So I think for as long as I know, for as long as I've been alive, I've been unwell. So I think it was a jokey term like, oh, so what do you do? Well, I'm a professional patient. So I think both Ollie and I, when, my co-host, my wonderful co-host that you've had on as well, that's how we came to that name with the podcast and stuff. So yeah, that's how we identify ourselves.
You mentioned there you've had kidney problems since birth.
Mm.
How aware were you of that when you were really young?
Oh, mate. So when I was really young, a lot of it. So this is what I was just saying to you. Like a lot of it is a haze. I don't usually have to recall kind of my health, my medical story, as it were, unless I'm on a wonderful podcast with Lewis Daniels. So I think I was born with small and soft kidneys. That was like kind of the initial diagnosis, straight from the hospital. And yeah, I think that was the immediate diagnosis kind of thing. For a long part, I mean, until I was about 7 or 8, I wouldn't remember. I don't recall anything, to be honest with you. When I was about 7 or 8, I remember going up to London for my hospital trips. So they would be checkups every 4 months or so, or every 4 weeks or so. And it would be just the usual, blood checks, blood tests, blood pressure checks, all of that stuff. And then, it was just, for me, it was a chance of taking half of the day of school and having McDonald's, because funnily enough, they decided to have a McDonald's right next to the hospital that I was at. So we would have McDonald's. Dad would treat me to McDonald's, or mum, whoever was taking me there. And then, I'd come back to finish school. So that's the only thing I really remember. Like, I don't really remember kind of, I remember nurses, or, again, it's funny, I remember their names, those who treated me, rather than their faces, because it's just all a haze, right? So, it would be that whole process. You get your levels checked and everything, and then you wait around, and then afterwards you basically see a doctor, and then you're out. So, it would be kind of a half a day thing. That's all I would remember with regards to my actual health. As weird as it sounds, I don't remember feeling in pain. Maybe like I knew I was different to other children. I knew I wouldn't be able to run around as much, even though my parents are constantly saying like, I was always like mischievous or naughty or running around. But it was also points where I would be quite, I'd sit down and I'd just take everything in. I'd watch everyone else play. And And in a weird way, thankfully, it didn't affect my kind of, not that I'm thinking about this back then, but it didn't really affect my social life because I think I had really supportive people in terms of the teachers or the parents of some of the other children that would go, they had quite an understanding of my health condition. They were very, like it was very inclusive. So I didn't feel like there were points where I would get bullied here and there, but I think by then I'd had the confidence to talk back to people anyway. Maybe too much, which we might go into later on. But yeah, there were obviously, I think, again, mate, sorry, I'm jumping from left to right to here to there. But there was obviously, I had a feeding tube, I think, like with most young children who grow up with this condition. And that's because I just literally wouldn't eat anything orally. So it would all have to be medication along with, food prepared through the nostril, which is a wonderful way to start the morning.
It's not the nicest thing for someone of that age to go through at primary school. And I've talked to Ollie about the feeding tube as well.
Yeah.
Did your friends at school, primary school at that age as well, did they understand what that was, why you had it, not to try and yank it out or pull on it?
Mate, I remember like people crowding around and pointing and laughing and things like that. But there's always teachers in the playground. There's always, this was in primary school. So there's two ways I can look at it. Sometimes I do get these these night terrors or whatever you would call it. You wake up like nervous shake in the middle of the night. Like, I think it's more because obviously, like, I'd like to think I'm a confident person and all of that stuff now. And it doesn't affect me. And I kind of used humor as my barrier for all of that stuff anyway. I think as you know, as you're aware. So like, I think there was bullying. There was people trying to tug it, yes. But I think there was also teachers immediately stepping in saying, this is not what we do. This is not, kind of thing. And thankfully in the end, well, I say thankfully, in the end, it got to a stage where it would just be taken out and then mum would put it in so I start the day with it, go through the night with it, and then I just don't have it during school. And I think that was better because I just don't want to be that visually different, like it's just in your face, right? Everyone can see it. And just as I've kind of almost gone full circle now because, I'm a teacher and an actor in terms of my career. And with the teaching stuff, when someone looks visibly different, whether it be wearing glasses or they behave in a different way, for whatever reason, children will pick up on it. And children are kind of naive but cruel in some ways. And in that they'll just say it how it is. And in some ways, it's not a case of they're trying to be nasty, but it's more a case of they just don't understand and they just want to say it because we all want to feel accepted, right? I guess.
Yeah, maybe a lack of filter at that age.
Yeah, that's definitely a much better, more eloquent way to put it than I've just said there. Yeah, lack of filter, I think is better. But yeah, like I think it's exactly that, isn't it? Like we don't, we hold back a lot more now than we would have in the past, and it's not that it's just an observation, but yeah, it just blurts out with the little ones. So yeah, I think that was the thing. And I think for me, because I would just run around and I don't like, I've just always been into football. So I would always play football. I've got an older brother as well. So he'd always chuck me in goal. So, which is interesting actually, because he'd always chuck me in goal and then just blast the ball at me, whether we're playing inside the house or in the park or whatever. So the whole kidney thing was never a thing. Like it was just like, oh yeah, all right, get up, mate. Like there was no kind of excuse, which is something that me and Ollie speak about quite frequently in the sense that with our the way we've approached things, it's with a hop, skip, and a laugh, basically. You up yourself, and it may not be suited for everyone, and it's always good to have a moan. I think definitely, it's always good to have a moan, but it's always good to kind of try and pick yourself up as well. But yeah, I think the best thing is not being treated differently. I think for a long time it was weird to adjust to, because it's like I know I'm different, but you're also kind of well, when we get into school and stuff, I'll tell you a little bit more about, playing sports and obviously even just class content, work content, it was very tough. But again, I'm going swings and roundabouts.
When you mentioned how you want just to be, yes, you're different, but treated the same. Kidney disease being this, I was always told it's this insidious disease. There's no symptoms. It's hidden. And there's some sort of things that manifest because of the condition, but it's hidden. And yes, it does make you different. But then afterwards, you've had the transplant. As long as you're fully clothed, you're basically the same as everyone else from the outside.
This is it. But this is the problem I have because I walk around naked a lot. So, it's very easy to spot. No, completely agree with you. I think insidious, again, I feel like a teacher. I'm marking you as first giving you a mark for the lack of filter, and now insidious. Yeah, no, definitely, completely agree. Because, like you said, if you look at someone from the outside, you don't know what they're going through, and I think it's the same case with mental health, obviously, as well. I think not to obviously, I'm just drawing parallels, but not direct comparisons. But yeah, no, it's completely true. I think it's so easy to just assume that someone is inverted commas normal, for this. I think it's interesting with transplants in general because when I was in dialysis, like I think it's made aware to you. Someone told me it was made aware they were a healthcare professional, and the sad fact is with kidney failure, a kidney transplant improves your quality of life. It doesn't essentially save your life if we're talking,
Yeah.
absolutely brutally, whereas if you have a heart transplant, your life is being saved. There's no case of, there's no case of your standard of life is improving and whatever. It is a case of you could stop breathing and you are going to continue breathing because of this operation. So I think that's why, yeah, there's some sort of, again, it's that insidious nature. Like you can just kind of essentially go without it. Even when I had dialysis, which I'm obviously jumping the gun a bit now, but even when I had dialysis, if I was to go back on the train, no one would know, They'd just see a normal person and maybe they just look really tired. They must have had a mad night out. That's, bloody hell, he looks hungover. That's probably what, it would have come across like. So yeah, I feel like I need to break down a little bit more about my medical history before I go here and there. But mate, this is your podcast. I don't want to take control. Sorry.
You're answering all my questions. It's saving me a job.
Oh, phew. Thank you.
You mentioned dialysis there, and spoiler alert for the listeners, you've had 2 kidney transplants.
What?
Did you have dialysis before your first one?
No, so I was lucky enough to. I'll tell you what. Let's go story time. So I was saying about when I was 7 or 8 years old. That's when I started going up to hospital. That's when it became an actual kind of blurry memory as such. Then, if we fast forward to around when I was about 9 or 10 years old, my hospital visits would become more frequent. So it was less about the McDonald's. It was more about why am I missing so many days of school? And it's like the last year of primary school, you're year 6, and it's like, oh man, I'm going to miss this big year. And we had a trip to like Sayers Croft, I think, or it was Isle of Wight, that big trip that all the, year 6s like go to, and I was going to miss that out. And then they told me in 2001, well, leading up to 2001, when I had my transplant, that you are going to have a kidney transplant. And it was all kind of planned well because my dad, thankfully, like he offered to kind of step in and give me the kidney. So in March 2001, that's when I had my first transplant. My condition deteriorated, but I didn't need dialysis first time round, thankfully. And I think that's kind of partly why Dad stepped in because, one of the benefits of having kind of kidney clinics, other than obviously being treated for your medical condition, is you'd have like a children's clinic. You'd have lots of children together and you'd have the parents of the children together. So my dad would have learned from like Ollie's mum because, Ollie's mum would have been, was the donor for Ollie and stuff. And, they would learn from talking to other parents. And it was almost like a support system for parents as well, which I think is really important. And which I kind of, which is, it's incredible. Like the support that we've had at our trust is amazing. It really is. And I'm always quick to step in and say, no, like we've had such a great experience. And, it's different for different trusts, but speaking on behalf of mine, I think they've been fantastic. But yeah, I think to actually go back to what you asked, I didn't have dialysis before before my first transplant.
And I completely echo your thoughts on the trust that I was at. I've now been through 2, well, 1 very briefly since I moved back home again. But yeah, it's all been great, smooth going through. But as a 10-year-old, what were your thoughts going into a transplant?
To be honest with you, I loved my doctor so much. She was hilarious. She was very funny, very physical with her comedy as well. Like very bright-eyed and just full of energy all the time. And it's, are you drinking enough? But I would want to impress her, which is the best way. It's like a good teacher. And I keep bringing up teacher because I think it resonates with you a little bit because it's something that you want to pursue from what I gather. So I feel like we've got a common ground there. I'm not saying I'm a good teacher. I'm saying I'm an amazing teacher. But, no, I'm lucky, mate, because I teach speech and drama. So it's the fun one. So it's the one where you can have a laugh. Not to belittle other courses, obviously, but but yeah, I just wanted to impress my doctor. She was amazing. She was hilarious. I would almost, dare I say it, look forward to having to sit down with her. Oh, how are you? How is it? Da, da, da. And like we're all talking. It was really nice. It was really lovely. And she retired recently. And it was she's just an amazing person, basically. And she explained everything. So if I would have, she explained, like, as awkward as it was at the time, she was kind of trying to draw, because dad would step in, or mum, whoever was with me, they would step in as well with these consultations, and they would see, like, she would draw a diagram, for instance, what would happen with the catheter, and what kind of procedure would happen here, and it was all very clearly explained. Or at least she made an effort to. But the only thing, once you're saying something's going up a place that you don't want it to go up, you just freeze and you're like, oh, bloody hell. So I wasn't even really dreading the transplant as much as the catheter itself, to be honest with you. Obviously, I'm not going to feel it. You've always got that kind of weird, maybe it's no one wants to wake up if they're under general. No one wants to wake up in the middle of a surgery, right? So it's one of those things where you think, are you going to wake up and it's going to be like you're in the middle of Saw, but set in London Bridge in a hospital? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just, it's not fun. So I think, I think for me, it was more a case of just loved my doctor, honestly. I know I keep saying it, but she was fantastic, really good. And I think the reason why I've got such a soft spot for her is, and things since my second transplant, they've been very smooth. If anything, they've been more smooth. But because of COVID and stuff, we haven't had that. I haven't had that constant, I'm not checking in with the same doctor. And this is no fault of the trust that I'm at. It's more phone calls as opposed to sit down and chats with your doctor and stuff like that. So it's completely different. That's why I guess I'm, feeling quite nostalgic about my previous experiences there. But yeah, I feel like there was the nervousness. I think my mum was very tearful, obviously. In one ward, she's got dad. On the other ward, she's got me. It was hugely, I don't know if traumatic is the right word to use, but it definitely did make me grow up older than, as a 10-year-old, you're seeing these things. And it definitely put you take stock of what's going on, and you're thinking in your head, one minute I'm going swimming on Thursdays with my mates at primary school. Next minute I'm lying on a hospital table. Well, I'm lying in a hospital bed, and they're telling me, you're going to be fine. How are you feeling about it? And stuff like that. And I think, testament to the nurses involved at the time, who obviously clearly are so great at their job. I can't really remember feeling too nervous, but I think, to be honest with you, we were showered with like gifts, and by gifts I mean, like, there was like a PlayStation that would go around on wheels in the ward. This is back in the old days where we had a TV to share and all of this stuff. So, we had our things to look forward to on the ward, right? And yeah, obviously I had Ollie to look forward to as well. So we chatted away, even though this was, I didn't meet him when I had my transplant, but it was, several years after. Well, I had a lot of rejection, actually, unfortunately, first time round. I would say I was in and out of hospital for like the best part of like 8 months, I would say. So it was all a little bit, crazy for that first part. And thankfully, again, the trust, they have like accommodation locally, even though we don't live too far. They had accommodation locally. So then mum would kind of live close to there, and I would be there. And, there would be several points in the middle of the night because my levels were messing up, and this, that, and the other. So it kind of just adds to this whole thing of growing up early, like growing up, quicker, should I say, sorry. And I mean that only in age and not in height, unfortunately. I just want to stress that I'm a 5'4" assassin. Maybe 5'5", maybe 5'5". But if I'm wearing Doc Martens, mate,
6 foot.
I'm like 6 foot. That's it. But yeah, what I lose in height, I make up for in my massive personality.
I think it definitely makes you grow up mentally. After that rejection, did it all go smoothly immediately after that?
Yeah, so after that kind of blip, and it was several blips, but I'm just going to say it as one blip and reference it as one blip. It was kind of essentially, okay, cool. And then it's like riding a bike. You're on the floor and then you're cycling again. So then I'm going back to this. First, you start off with seeing the doctor every 2 weeks. So I've come back home now, and then every 2 weeks I go and see a doctor, and then every 4 weeks, and so on and so forth, till I'm back in a stage where I'm seeing them every, once a month or every 2 months. And my kidney condition is lasting for a long time. I mean, um, my other kidney. So I've got 4 kidneys now. Sorry, I don't know how to count because they didn't remove my native kidneys. So the kidneys I was born with, which were the small and soft kidneys, they didn't actually remove them. I had them, still do. I think the argument, but what was said is that it was more because they're causing, even though they work at a very low percent, they still work. And it's like kind of intricate plumbing, essentially. So that if they had to take one out, they'd have to put more plastic inside my body, and it's all kind of infections and things like that. And I'm really dumbing it down because I don't really know the ins and outs. And I think, like I said, this whole thing is a haze. This is my first time round with the transplant. And I was younger, and I think for me, I just felt better. I actually genuinely felt better. I could remember coming back to school, playing football again, scoring a goal, and like all of these feelings. I was just like, this is so alien to me because I follow football, and I follow a team that are doing quite poorly at the moment. But you live and you learn. But you know what? I've caught you on a day where United have got a rare
Yeah.
loss last night. So, and we Arsenal, being an Arsenal fan, we've had a rare win. So I'm not going to gloat. There's nothing to gloat about. But I'll just leave that there. But following football, watching it, playing with my older brother, and then obviously I think because he had his mates as well, and kind of mum would be like to shove me, why don't you just go and play with your brother and play with his mates? And naturally, you're kind of you get better by playing a better opponent, they say, right? So just because I'm playing with people above my age, like I'd like to think I'm a little bit, maybe not as much now because I've had the stuffing kicked out of me in terms of health, but I feel like I'm at a decent level of footy. But I think it was just, you feel different, you feel different. And for someone who wasn't really as much into sports, I might play for fun. I'm now going into an environment where I'm back in primary school, finishing off primary school and then going into secondary school. And I was lucky enough to go to a school that were very, very centered on sports. So with that strength of that first kidney transplant, I was trying to join all the teams, hockey, football, rugby, cricket, all of that stuff. I was a really, really, really big lad in terms of round. So I mean that is my Twitter handle, Round Ruban, I think. So so paying homage to that. I think I was about I don't know, 5 foot something. I don't know, 5'1" probably, and like maybe less, probably about 65 kilos, as as an 11-year-old. So immediately I'm at this school where they're all very much into their rugby, and they're like, "Oh, why don't we get Ruben in as a rugby player?" Yeah. So I go to training, and again, this comes back to this whole idea of wanting to talk about your health quite publicly and all of that stuff. I didn't really, like, mum would do all the necessary doctor's letters and things like that with the stuff, but certain things go amiss. So, with the sports teachers, they didn't really know. And then they were like, you don't, why are you so unfit? There would be these kind of, like I'd do a bleep test. And it wasn't just because I'm like, like a massive blob. It was because, because they could see that I'm still trying, but I'm literally like out of breath. And they were like, this can't be just, obviously these are trained sports officials and stuff. And this is, again, something that you'd know. Like, this person isn't just overweight. Like, yes, he's overweight, but there's more to it, like, whatever. And then when they started getting in touch with the hospital side of things, looking into the hospital information that mum would put to the school, they were like, oh, okay, so there's a reason, basically. There's a reason behind it. There's some sort of medical diet. And what I'm referring to is the prednisolone, the steroids that I was on, and obviously being swollen. Not in the slang, I'm looking swole. I'm looking more, like a bowl. So it wasn't very like a bowl of jelly, mate. So it wasn't really, but it was interesting because I think, again, someone who, like, there was other sports available, right? Hockey, football, cricket, rugby, all of this stuff. So I just wanted to just pick out everything that I could get myself involved in, really.
On that sporting front, with the PE teachers, it was actually on my list of questions, were they understanding? Did they become more understanding of your condition once they found out more about it?
A couple did. A couple really didn't. I think they would just, there was one teacher I remember quite distinctively. I must say, I was, though you can't probably tell because I'm so polite and I have such a good behavior now. I could be a little bit mischievous growing up, a bit rude to teachers at times, right? Anyway, this teacher was like just being unnecessary, and I think he just said, like, I don't know what happened, and this is, I mean, he's quite large himself, but there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But he just switched at me for no reason at all. I don't know. Maybe he was having an off day. I don't know. And he just like all I remember from that conversation was, well, if you weren't, if you weren't making excuses, then maybe you could step into the gym a little bit more often, and you'd use a treadmill, and you'd actually lose some of the weight, and then you wouldn't be moping around. And I was just like, yo, what? Where did that come from? And I think it was annoying for him because I had quite a few friends, and it would be like, I was quite quick-witted because you grow up, like if you're getting bullied, you just grow up, you learn. It's like a defense mechanism, so you cope in such a way, right? And I think it's only really recently dawned on me when I'm doing this cycle of being a teacher, I would never, never speak to a student like that. Like, it's just ridiculous. Maybe times have changed, obviously. We're in 2021 now and things are a little bit different. But I just thought to myself, like, there was two ways. I could have taken that really offensively, cried, gone home, had that could have turned into a really big thing. But I think, well, my reaction was I swore at him and I was very upset and angry. And it was a big scene. And thankfully, some of the other sports teachers had my back, and the students heard what he said. And they were like, "Oh, sir, do you not know? Like, Ruben said this, Ruben said that. Sir, what's going on? Oh, no." And I was just like, "Yeah, man. Yeah, you don't know me. You know about my life." So, yeah, it turned into a proper dramatic thing. And then he was like, he had a thick South African accent, which I'm not going to try and mimic. But he was very much like, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean. And I was just like, well, it's a bit too late for apologies. And matter of fact, this is a thing, like I said, I was I was a cocky, really naughty, unnecessarily rude kid. The teachers that I liked, I got on with really well. Obviously, the ones that I didn't, I wanted to make it hell for him. And he gave me even more of a reason to dislike him. Any people listening to this right now, by the way, especially younger listeners, please don't follow these footsteps. Always respect your elders and, show respect and give respect. But for me at the time, I just wanted to preface that, Lewis.
That's
sorry.
fine, yeah.
But for this time, mate, I was fuming, obviously. And I was just like, I mean, this guy isn't, he's not got the torso of a Greek god. So I don't know where you're coming at me with this. What's your excuse? You're a PE teacher, mate. Like, what's going on? So it was very and then he got very tetchy, and then I had to change classes for PE lessons and stuff, and it was all a little bit of a mare. But it's all a little bit stupid. It's kind of laughable now, but it was all a little bit stupid because I obviously took offense. I'm just grateful for the people at the time around me who listened and spoke up, because they were like, no, this is what Sir said. Like, this is what he said, which is potentially quite traumatic. Thankfully, it wasn't. It was hilarious for me, but it's potentially something that's going to, and I think the true story about it all is that I didn't play rugby because of, kind of full contact, obviously. So mum did make these shin pads. Basically, she kind of sewed two shin pads together on like some old pair of football shorts or something. And then I'd wear that over my kind of stomach, like the top half where my belly button is now. Well, I'm showing you visually. This probably doesn't help, so I'm going to try my best to the wonderful listeners. But it was kind of, I tucked it up, so I'm wearing them kind of just under the, just above the belly button kind of thing. And then
like a waistband of shin pads.
I played a couple of games. Sorry?
Like a waistband of shin pads.
This is it. Yeah. That's another, mate. That's 3 stars. That's 3 stars. You slowly becoming the best people in the room.
I got 5 by the end.
Rapidly. If you do, I might have to,
I'll get a sticker.
Golden time. But yeah, like I think, waistband and shin pads, exactly that. And obviously adult and all of that stuff. Mum, adult shin pads, and mum sewed that together, gave it a go. Because I was really keen. I mean, like the rugby looked so fun. When you're playing football, which seems quite docile compared to rugby in some ways growing up, I was just like, wait, what? You can actually make tackles? This is sick. And then, obviously I played, and I ended up in the nurse's room after like my first few games or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, this is not happening. Like, yeah, I can't do it. And then he was just like, oh, okay, maybe I was a bit harsh then, because if he's actually, in the nurse's office because of that. And the thing is, I played football as well, so he realized that there was some ability there. It wasn't just like, he's just being lazy. Like I said, he's probably just had an off day. And if I were to, see him in a pub somewhere, and like, then I probably would be like, I don't know if you remember me, but we had this chat when I was 12 years old or whatever. But yeah, moral of the story is stand your ground. But thankfully I didn't get expelled from school, so that's the best part.
That's a good job. We've covered rugby there, and you've mentioned football a lot. We may as well talk about football now.
Let's do it.
Did you first of all, what position were you playing?
Can you guess?
I'm going to go off of the other footballers who've been on here, and I'm going to say goalkeeper. Wow. Everyone who's had a transplant seems to be a goalkeeper.
Really? No, I played up front.
Oh,
Yeah, I
so
played up.
we had two strikers,
Yeah,
and I think the rest have all been goalkeepers.
yeah. I mean, goalkeeper makes complete sense. To be completely honest, yeah, it makes complete sense. Again, I have to preface this with the fact that I play more as a hobby now. But I used to play up front. Also, there's lots of people who are very like really quick. So now I'm working against my condition. I can't go as fast as them. I can't, So where I would like to, I mean, growing up, I think I lacked in kind of physically, being pushed off the ball or, lacking in speed, I think I would make up for in like kind of a technical proficiency. I'm really overhyping myself. I know my mates are listening thinking, mate, shut up. But I think what it was is just watching players like on replay, one of my, my favorite football player, and just trying to mimic him. I think that's all it was. But playing more down the middle because I was lazy and I didn't want to make the runs. So it was like somewhere between Berbatov and so like your armchair striker, but give the ball and hopefully I'll deliver kind of situation there.
Fox in
So
the box.
yeah, Francis Jeffers, Fox in the box. Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Football in proper matches, football in PE, you've got
Mm,
people there, you've got teachers refereeing, you've got referees enforcing the rules. I don't know about your school, if it's similar to mine, lunchtime, but your break for lunch was very much a time to play football.
yeah.
And maybe rules would go out the window a bit with no ref and no teacher watching. Did you have to be more careful if you played at lunchtime when the rules were out the window?
Very, very good question. The answer is yes. I should have been more careful, but it was fine. A couple of knocks here and there were fine, and thankfully, because it's weird. You adapt your body because there's a weakness. So at the time, I had my transplant kidney was on my right side. So just the way I would run or the way I would edge my body would be just kind of away from that side naturally. I would try and avoid being hit on that side. Or if I'm going in for challenges, I'm trying to go in with the left. And I think that kind of helps in some weird way because it helped me kind of try and be trying to take shots with both left and right foot as opposed to just only focusing on one side of my body. So, I mean, again, not to play competitively, this is just having fun. Also, you're playing with peers, you're playing with your mates. They know, there is
Yeah.
competition, but they know that they can't go in too hard on me, or I'll just sit back a little bit because there's always that kind of air of uncertainty. And because I've been in a situation where I've been really unwell and then suddenly I've got my life back, I don't want to do anything to get in the way of getting back into that position, you know? Um, I feel like I want to mention something as well with regards to this whole being naughty and stuff. One thing that really helped me, and this was outside of school, was karate.
Right.
And I didn't mention this before. I think it really helped in terms of discipline. I think I'm like a brown belt, but I can't remember. I think I was two off. So this is the thing. I was like two off a black belt or maybe three off a black belt. And then I got a kidney infection. So I had to stop doing that as well. And then after that, I just never really got back into it, to be honest with you. But it was really fun. And it was, doing the grading sessions and things like that. Um, Really, really good because it really helped me with trying to zone in on kind of how I felt about things on in terms of like in a spiritual way almost. I think karate really, really helped. But I just felt like I just wanted to say that as well. Completely forgot to mention it before, but yeah, mate.
It's a good point. Reese, who I had on really early on in the podcast, I think it might have been the second episode that I did.
Mm.
He did Thai boxing, and he said that the discipline from that
Wow,
really helped going into the transplant because of the discipline to take your medication and
hundred
eat at the
percent.
right times. Have you found that?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think I'm very lucky with regards to medications and taking care of myself. My parents were really supportive, obviously, from day one because I'm living at home with 2001 with that transplant. And I think this was the thing that was so frustrating because even despite taking these tablets and despite all of this stuff and being quite strict with it and disciplined, I still have had this kind of heavy rejection. But having said that, my transplant lasted 16 years because, again, like you're implying with Reese. I mean, Thai boxing's different though, man. I think it's a lot more contact. Like,
Yeah, that was before
yeah,
transplant.
yeah, that was because I don't think I could see myself like even with boxing. I think I gave it a go and it was very much like you could feel it, and it's not nice feeling winded and also being just nervous and losing a transplant. I just don't want to go through that. So with my boxing experience or whatever, I just did some spar sessions, some like the warm ups even. Sorry, so just trying to work my physical fitness, work up my physical fitness kind of thing, which didn't last long because I didn't enjoy it. And that's just always been me, unfortunately. Also, I think around that time I have a big interest in like fashion and art and drama, so, and music and all of that side of things. So I think I put down the boxing and decided to take on art galleries, which is, like it's just go with the flow. And I'm, just older and just it's a different way of life, I guess. But yeah, I think karate definitely helped with my discipline. And the sparring, it can actually be semi-contact. It's not actually contact with karate, with the karate that we did, because you
Yeah.
pull out your gi, the uniform that you'd wear, the gi, as we would say, and you pull it out. Sorry, I'm doing a very bad impression, but as soon as you hit and you hear something, okay, point, done. You don't have to even touch the belly. You just have to hit that side of the,
Right.
And again, I would wear this shin pad waist, protector. And yeah, it was just really good for my confidence as well. And it just, you see yourself losing weight. So, growing up then, as I was doing more sports, I was kind of slimming down. So I felt like I had less of this little man syndrome, if you want to call it that, with getting rude to teachers and this, that, and the other, and just other people in general. And just, sometimes you have friends who, can be quite mischievous too, shall we say. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so you don't have to feel like you need to prove yourself, which is a general theme, I think, with someone who's like, just, I'm speaking personally, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like with someone, maybe you can, mate, maybe you can shed some light on that. But I felt like growing up with having health complications, I felt like I've constantly had to prove myself to other people. And it's not like an overt thing. It's not like people judge you and they want to say straight away, what have you achieved? But because I've had so many breaks in education and I've had so many breaks in work, um, I think it's quite difficult. I feel like sometimes psychologically, I just need to prove myself to other people. That's me really opening up, by the way. So good on you for being such a great listener. Sorry, that sounded really patronizing. I appreciate it. But Lewis, what do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's going to be slightly different for me, as I sort of alluded to earlier. I'm quite new to this world. I'm 22, and I was first diagnosed with kidney disease at 19.
Of
So I've
course,
not gone
yeah,
through
yeah, that's
school with
true.
it. But again, I've had now 2 years out of education, stopped a
Yeah,
degree, going to start a new one soon. It's that I want to finish a degree. I got 2 years in, and health stopped me. But going
yeah,
through that degree, when you're diagnosed and there's the effects of kidney disease, my kidneys failed in my second year, and I had some concentration issues and a few sort of, I don't know if anyone else has had this before. If you have, then let me know. I'm interested to hear. And I had a few memory issues with
yeah,
remembering things that obviously the content of the course that I had to learn for exams and for going on to placement with the nature of that degree, and having to come up with different methods to remember it, taking crib sheets into certain things, making more notes, watching lectures over and over again. And I was determined to get through and get decent marks on that, and I did. It was respectable. So maybe, yeah, in that sense, yeah, I can see that.
definitely. But then again, like, not that just I say this every time I speak to you, so it's probably a broken record, but props to you, because in that time that you've taken away, you've started a fantastic podcast, and you've been like smashing it through guest after guest after guest. And it's been really interesting, especially with this direction of sports, because I feel like when you think of someone being unwell, you don't really associate sports. You don't really associate us with leading, normal lives. You might just think, oh, okay, they go on to do a job and whatever. And yeah, bless them. Oh, that's cute. But the fact that you've had some people who've, represented Great Britain, you've had people that have, like doing Thai boxing and all of that stuff before. Obviously, I know that was before the transplant and stuff. And then you've had people who do still are active. They do have an active lifestyle. Yeah, it's just really interesting. Like, yeah, it's really, really interesting. But yeah, props to you, man.
Thank
Great
you.
stuff.
I've got another sport that you did at school, and the reason we're talking about school so much today, I know you've done an episode on your podcast as well about your
Yeah.
experience of school, not as much in a sporting sense, but most of your sporting experiences have been at school. And you've talked about the shin pad belt that you wore for rugby. You've
Yeah.
also played cricket, and I'm big into this protection in cricket for kidneys. I've been searching everywhere for pads. Thankfully, I
Yes.
found one, which I will talk about after you've had your say on this bit. Did you wear any extra protection for that with the ball coming pretty fast at you?
Um, Again, it was just that shin pad Protector, really,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I would wear 2 T-shirts. So, I mean, these are the things I would just remember, like, trying to adapt. So, I'd really, even though if it was in the heat of summer, I would still wear, like, you've got your cricket whites, but I'd wear, like, a vest underneath and then a T-shirt, and then so even just psychologically, I feel like I'm fully padded as much as I can be, and then I've got the shin pad thing. Obviously, you got your box. You're wearing your box, to protect your crown jewels. But yeah, there's been nothing that, well, obviously there has now, which you go on to say, but there's, it's interesting growing up with this stuff. You couldn't go into, we had a shop called Hewitt's in, near where I live in Croydon, in the kind of center of Croydon. And that was like your school sports provider. So you get your uniform, your school uniforms there, that's your one-stop shop kind of thing. And you wouldn't have like transplant equipment to protect those with a transplant or any health complication for that matter. So it's really interesting that, I'm assuming you're about to say. If not, then I've completely
Yep.
misread.
You're right.
But yeah, I think to answer your question with protection, no, like I just wrapped up more. And it's frustrating because, you just you just have to work against another thing to play a sport that everyone else can play freely, like technically, yeah. So
There's loads of different homemade methods of protection. You've mentioned your shin pads that you'd put around yourself. Matt from the Transplant cricket team who had them before, he had, I think it was two some sort of cricket guards, either arm guards or thigh guards that he'd put in his waistband. I've
yeah,
tried a boxing guard. I know a few others have as well. For batting at the moment, I found something I like. Like you said with the t-shirts, I wear like a base layer, and then I've made. My dad called it a homemade boob tube. I've cut
that's
the
probably the best way to put it.
I've
I
cut
can
the
see
arms
where you
off.
get your way of words from, Lewis. I can see where you get it from.
I've cut the arms and chest off of a thermal base layer, and I put that
Right.
on, and then I wear a cricket chest guard over that, and then fold the top of that over just to stop the Velcro that I've had to glue on, putting pulls in my top and just making sure that lasts a bit longer, and then my top goes
Yeah.
on. That's my batting equipment, but I didn't really have the confidence bowling and fielding with the ball coming towards me with no pad on, because I couldn't really wear that running in and bowling and running around the field.
Well, yeah, when you're kind of filled in. I guess, yeah. You know what? To be honest with you, um my I want to say career is not the right word to use, but with cricket it was very different. Like we just play that for games. I didn't play competitively, even though we did use the hard ball and we still had the equipment there and all of that stuff. But I was more of a bowler, I guess, than a bat. No, I think I gave everything a go. I just feel like well, I mean, again, it's all a blur really, and there was nothing really readily available for protection other than your box, your shin pads, and all your arm guards and all of that stuff. So I think I was just quite lucky, to tell you the truth. And obviously, bearing in mind this was when I was much younger, so I guess it wasn't as dangerous. Is that what I'm trying to say? I don't know.
Possibly a bit slower.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like you just play at a different level. I guess. I guess that's what it must have been. But thankfully, yeah, I didn't have any serious problems with with regards to all of that. So yeah, that was a massive relief, to be honest.
I did the bowling and fielding. Thankfully, I entered a competition run by a company called Hero Key Protection. That was in
Yes,
association with the World Transplant Games Federation, and I
nice,
won. I was saying to Ollie on the last episode that went out, and they sent me their kidney shield, which there's a review that I've done for them, which is coming out on their Instagram page and the World Transplant Games Federation page soon. So if you go and follow them at Hero Key Protection, that's Hero KI, you'll be able to read that, and I'll put a few photos on the Transplant Take on Sport Instagram soon once that's gone out. Basically, it's a belt made out of the sort of thing you get a back support out of, very flexible, and then there's a pad on the front that's made out of similar material to cricket protection that moves with your body, but when it gets hit, it hardens up and protects you, and that's given me so much more confidence bowling and fielding. And I was saying to Ollie that the World Transplant Games had a discount code. I now have a discount code thanks to Hero Key Protection. So if you're listening to
mate, go
this
you.
and you'd like a kidney shield from Hero Key, you can go to herokey.co, add the kidney shield to your basket, and then when you get to the checkout, use the code ThanksLewis050521. Or if you click the link in the show notes, that'll take you straight to their website and automatically apply the discount code for you. So if you're interested in that, please go and have a look. Support Hero Key. They've been kind enough to give a discount code to me for all of you to use.
Wonderful, expertly done, expertly done. Um, yeah, no, I think it's a great thing to be like, yeah. Look at you with your discount code. Ooh, very fancy. Love it. Love it. Good stuff. He's going bright red, guys and girls. He's going bright red. No, good on you. And I think it's a great thing to kind of promote and sponsor, especially in line with sports, but like, Transplant with sports. It's really interesting about the hardening up as well, like with the protection hardening up rather than just what we would have like makeshift loose shin pads or whatever. And, so yeah, looking forward to, I think I'll definitely look into that for sure.
I think it's not just for cricket as well, it's all sports. I've seen people cycling in it.
Okay.
I think it'd be good for football. On the website, someone suggested that if you get like an elbow in the gym, someone walking past, or if you knock a weight on it, it's just going to stop those little
Oh, okay.
bangs.
I think I'll definitely use thanks Lewis 050521.
That's it.
Have I got that right?
Yes, you have, yeah.
Wonderful. I'll definitely use that. And yeah, props to you again. No, I think I'll definitely, especially for footy, I think it'll definitely, because obviously, like I said before, you kind of gear towards your not so, you're trying to play play to your strengths, obviously, right? But now I've got a kidney on my right and I've got a kidney on my left. So I need Hiroki. That's what I need.
While we're on the topic of cricket equipment that we use for cricket, I've got to stress that this is a personal sponsor, not a podcast sponsor. Otherwise,
Right.
Distributor. This is a personal sponsor. Neon Cricket kindly sponsored me for this season as a player coach. And another discount code for you all as well. It's Lewis D25 at neoncricket.co.uk, and he gets 25% off everything. I think stock might be running low at the moment because of the pandemic. But if you go and have a look, I highly recommend it. I use it. Been using it in the training sessions. Not many games because they've all been cancelled. So hopefully this weekend it'll get some use. But the pads are the lightest I've ever used. The gloves are really good, and my bats are refurbs, but top class. So if you go and have a look on there, if you're interested in cricket gear, if not, you don't have to.
You don't have to do anything in life, Lewis, but you're doing it in your time off. Sorry, I'm just trying to seamlessly bring it back, but yeah, great. It didn't work, did it? It's got more awkward, if anything.
Well, segue is maybe not the best thing. Well, let's just go straight back in.
Go for it.
Have you got any plans to do sport in the future? Have you done much since school?
100%. Bowling. I love bowling now. It's not, I mean, again, this is not competitive. This is a social thing. I play with friends, good friends, and we have our kind of forfeits for those who lose. So it's like an enjoyable thing. Footy, I'm still playing five-a-side, and I want to get back into that. Obviously now, given that restrictions have kind of loosened a little bit, so I've been, going to get back into footy and play more frequently. And I think I just want to get rid of the excess weight, basically, that I think we've all been putting on during lockdown. So yeah, and also Ollie is encouraging me to go climbing. So I think tomorrow he's going to take me for my first or second climbing session in my life. So that would be interesting because I know he's big on his climbing. So those are the things that I want to really get into, so to speak. I think footy is something that I'll always play, even if it is just stick me in goal, because I just enjoy the sport.
Yeah.
Whether it's at a competitive level, whether it's playing in the park, whether it's whatever, I think it's something that I'll always try to get involved in where I can,
The restrictions are easing now. Hopefully you can get back to it soon. We've covered a lot here. We've still got more to go over. You've had one transplant. The second transplant, when did you find out you needed another one?
Right. So I was lucky enough after doing my kind of drama degree and all of that stuff, doing all this actor business, I was lucky enough to come out, and it dawned on me I wasn't going to, it's not like with other degrees potentially, you're going to go and I've just fast forwarded a whole bit, by the way, but that's fine. I think it's probably better for the sake of time. But I wanted to just jump straight into a job essentially, and it's not like that in the acting industry, unfortunately. So I thought, let me teach English as a second language. So I was lucky enough to travel to China, which I did for the best part of 6 months or so. It was meant to be a year, but that's when my condition kind of dramatically deteriorated. So that's when I was kind of, it was a case of an emergency flight back to London, back to, my condition kind of stabilized. I got really unwell in China, then came back here. And then that's when I kind of essentially was a little bit better. And then it got worse again. And then in 2017, basically, I started dialysis. So that was for like the best part of 2.5 years before my second transplant took place in 2019, August of 2019. So thankfully, just before the pandemic kind of really set off.
To hit the right time, it's actually a very similar time to mine that you had your transplant in
Yeah.
2019. That dialysis for 2.5 years. How did you take that, considering that you'd had your transplant at 10, it's been going
Mm.
well, and then suddenly crashing down in hospital? Did you dialyse in hospital?
Yeah, to begin with, I dialyzed in hospital, and then when I started, we have a dialysis unit basically that's more practical for those who are going to be dialyzing for a while, rather than all of that stuff. So yeah, I did PD. No, I didn't. I did HD. I did hemodialysis. Sorry, and that was 3 days a week, 4 hours for each session. And it was, I know, like I listened in before to many of your podcast episodes. One of them was Maddie Warren, who really broke down, like, because she's essentially living life on dialysis, which is incredible. Something that I definitely don't think I could do. But I think I'm not going to be I'm not going to give you all the facts. I'm just going to give you my experience of dialysis,
Yeah.
my emotional response to dialysis, rather than kind of what HD, PD, all the differences and all that jazz. But I found essentially that it worked better for me to just, go to a hospital or go to a dialysis unit, do my treatment, be done with it, and go home. That just seemed to be more beneficial for me. And you know, it's just different strokes for different folks. I think, like my partner, she was also on dialysis as well, and she was on PD because it just worked better for her. So and she continued to work and all of these other things. And to be honest, I did continue to work, but I think it's very difficult, man. I think dialysis is very draining. I don't think I can, it's one thing being positive, definitely, and it's good to be positive, but you've got to kind of accept sometimes that you just really, it's a very shattering experience. At least mine certainly was. And you have 4 hours to, every other day, you have 4 hours to think and think and think. And we recently recorded an episode on my kind of experiences with Ollie, and a good day of dialysis would be, I go there, I fall asleep, I wake up, I'm done. That would be a good day.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I've done my time, and then I'm getting on with my day, because then you have to kind of go back, do whatever it is, go home, shower, get ready, whatever, and then mentally prepare yourself for the following day. But the following day comes and you know that I've got to be up again on the following day doing, the day after, because every other day. So yeah, it was very shattering. It was very difficult for me. And I don't know what it is, divine intervention. I don't know what it is, but I really started picking up kind of a few more acting gigs and really pursuing my interests. So I started working more within fashion. I was lucky enough to go to Copenhagen Fashion Week and London Fashion Week and things like that. I started really, like, just things clicked for me, which I'm very, very grateful for. Like, and I just started, just just leaning into everything. Opportunities presented themselves, and I was just like, I just put myself out there. This is outside of health stuff, obviously, and that kind of worked for me. Football, I was really bad. I was terrible at football. Could not keep active. Really, and then it became a psychological thing for me. I was just like, we're going to play, and like, you're losing friends now because they don't want you in your team. And this is all interior. This is all internal. Friends are great, and they'll just be like, yeah, we'll have you on. We just have to balance the teams around. But the fact that you have to balance teams around because of my ability just makes you feel like crap, really, doesn't it? Like, so it was it really affected me, to be honest. That's the only way I can put it. Like, it's a very draining experience. But thankfully, I had my transplant in 2019, similar to your time. But mine was, I think yours was a little bit earlier, wasn't it?
Mine was
Mine
July.
was August.
The end
Your
of July.
July, so just a month before. But we weren't in the same. You
No.
were from a different part of England,
Yeah.
unfortunately. If the accent wasn't a giveaway,
Up north.
up north. So yeah, I was. So it was my brother. I was very lucky to have been taken his kidney. Taken his kidney? No, received his kidney, not taken. It was definitely a mutual thing. It wasn't, and I just want to say, I think at this juncture, because I mean, I'm not going to speak facts again, but it's there is a real absence of people in. I don't like the term BAME, but just for ease of speaking, I'm just going to say, in Black and ethnic minority, Asian minority communities, there is a real absence of donors, like organs available. So just take my story, for instance. In 2001, my dad gave me a kidney. In 2019, my brother's given me a kidney. Now, it's a massive break in their whatever they were pursuing. I think dad was pursuing. He'd been working and he was doing like a postgraduate in like he's like doing a teaching for I think a PG diploma thingy for like teaching in like lecturing in universities and teaching kind of older students and things. He had to take a break in that. My brother, he had to essentially, he was turning into becoming self-employed so that he could manage his finances and work. And these sacrifices were being made for me, which is another thing. Like, I don't know how you feel, but I think Ollie would certainly relate to an extent. Not that we should feel like this, but there is an element of feeling quite burdensome as someone who is, I think maybe it's more obvious given that it was my dad who gave me my kidney and, my brother who gave me my kidney. The reason why I mentioned race, the reason why I mentioned Black and ethnic minority, Asian minority, like, see, I clearly don't like the acronym because I don't even know what it stands for properly, or maybe I'm choosing not to. But there is a real absence, and I think maybe I might use this opportunity to just say, like, it's important to have that conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all I'm trying to say, really, man. Just to be, I know we laugh a lot, and we joke a lot, but I think it's time to be serious sometimes. And yeah, I think it's just really important to just keep that conversation going. And this is why your podcast's great, because we keep talking, and this is why we, like Ollie and I, chose to do our podcast, because we just wanted to keep, share our conversations. And I think it's just really important. And from however many people, we've been quite lucky, to be honest with you, but from however many people that have listened to it, even if one person takes on board and then has that conversation with their partner or their friend or their colleague at work, oh, okay, cool, I never knew this. And then, some people think that a transplant's a cure, and sadly, I wish it was, mate. I wish it was. So, but yeah, you asked me about dialysis. I ended up with transplant not being a cure.
Well,
But
you've answered my questions. It's as I said earlier, it's a job saved for me.
All right, good.
And your brother donated. Do you think that's brought you closer together?
We've always been very close, to be honest with you. When he came forward first, I was just like, no, like, I can't put you through this. I've already put dad through this and I was younger, and you kind of just go with the flow. It was very difficult, but I think it got to a stage where no one at home wanted to see me in the situation that I was in. I'd like to think I've always been someone who's quite ambitious, someone quite driven, especially when you're pursuing a career in acting. You can't afford to really take breaks. You can't afford to not feel like 100% essentially physically fit. It's a very mentally and physically demanding career to pursue. And it was very, very tough to finish treatment, come back, try to see, okay, cool, is there any auditions, things going, okay, here, there, and everywhere. And it was very tough. And mum I wasn't happy. And I think obviously my parents weren't, it wasn't good for them. And my brother was just like very quick to come forward. I mean, as soon as I went on dialysis, he said, well, there is a kind of light at the end of the tunnel. I will give my kidney. And I was like, I don't really want to put you through that, because you're older. You realize what the kind of the sacrifices involved now. Also, I'm lucky enough to have two gorgeous nieces and a nephew. And like, it was, it's very interesting. Like the whole situation has changed, and it was, I think I've been very, we're very close. We're very close. He's a Liverpool fan, so we do have our disagreements, but like, we're very close. We're very close, even though he's kind of, he lives further away and he's got his own family and stuff like that. But she's lovely. My sister-in-law's amazing. Like, we all get on. It's amazing. Yeah.
So good to hear. And has your transplant been going well since you had it done?
It has been amazing.
Good stuff.
I've had, I'm very happy to say that my transplant health has been fantastic. All the levels have been great, and like, it's been really, it's so weird because it's so different to when I had my first transplant, where I was in and out of hospital all the time, and this, that, and the other. But I feel great. And how about yourself, man? How's your kidney health? I haven't even. I know you've got me on as a guest, but I feel like, how are you? Talk to me about your sporting merits, and talk to me about. You've got to do an episode at some point.
I think I will do at some point. Yeah, I have to find somebody to come on and host.
Well,
maybe you, maybe Ollie.
Yeah, But go on, sorry, you were saying, yeah, well, I was asking, how was your kidney health?
Health-wise, to be honest, I couldn't have asked for much better. It couldn't really have gone more smoothly. A slight complication in hospital with
Right,
blood clots in my bladder, but other than that, it's all been very smooth. Kidney
that's good.
function is much higher than I even thought it could be at the start. Based on my mum's kidney function, she was the donor,
Yeah.
and
Ah, shout out mum.
I thought I'd get maximum 55 EGFR.
Right.
Because I thought it'd just be half of her function. I'm in
Yeah.
the 70s now, so I couldn't ask for any
Mate,
more.
that's wicked. That's really, but you clearly take care of yourself as well, though. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I'm big on healthy eating, big on keeping active.
You are, which is really good. I think you definitely are the poster boy for a great podcast. Whereas I think if we were going to do if Ollie and I were going to do a sports podcast, it definitely would not. They'd be like, look at these fellas, they're definitely not, But yeah, I think it's really, yeah, I think healthy eating and incorporating. I remember when we spoke briefly, like low sodium diets and low salt diets and things like that. These things didn't even really encounter my mind when I was on dialysis or when I was, going through kind of end stage renal failure, because the only thing that would make me happy is seeing my friends. And if that does involve drinking, then it will involve drinking, because you just build, and I'm not saying this is definitely not a way to be. And thankfully now I'm in a side where I'm a lot more mature and I'm behaving, and I've always been, one to take my tablets, because like I said, it's that discipline thing that, you wake up, you do this. You might skip the odd dose, but it's not like because you can't be bothered to take it. It's a case of you wake up, you do this, you go to sleep, you do this kind of thing. But yeah, no, good to hear that your kidney health is good, man. That's really good.
Let's come on to some listener questions. I asked out.
Oh,
I went asked out. Asked on social media, Instagram, which is at Transplant Take on Sport Pod. Facebook is at Transplant Take on Sport Pod, and Twitter at TTOS Pod for questions. So if anyone would like to send in any questions in the future for a chance to feature on the podcast, make sure you go and follow those pages. And the day before recording, there'll be a post going out saying who's coming on, what they do, and asking for questions. All the questions came from Instagram today. Let's get into them. Let's go short answer, semi quick fire, because there are quite a few, and I'm conscious of the time that people are listening for and the time that seems to work.
sorry. Thank you, guys.
First one from Sayan. What was the biggest difference between your first and second transplant? And I'll add something on my list. Were you more relaxed for the second one?
So shout out Seon, that's my little brother there. I'll be taking his kidney in a few years, I'm sure. My answer to you, Seon, is I think that the actual process, I don't remember much of the first, but in terms of the scar itself, it was like glue. It is not like glue. I'm just quoting Sean Paul here. It wasn't like glue. It was glue rather than stitches
Yeah,
in
mine
my
was.
first kidney. So that was the most, that was the biggest difference. Was I more ready for it? Yes. I felt like I had even more support from my partner, my now fiance. So she pulled out all the stops. She did everything to make sure I was relaxed and comfortable. So yeah, I think I was definitely, I don't ready for a transplant. I don't know if that's the right word to use, like right phrase to use, but I definitely had a lot of support and warmth from her, which is incredible.
The next two come from Jean Louis, and he says,
Dr. Jean-Louis.
"How
What's he
important is
said?
sport in helping you with dealing with your condition?"
To answer, I think it's very important. Whether I choose sport all the time is probably not, I'm just being honest here. But it's very important. I think it's good to stay active and stay fit and healthy, both mentally and physically. Um, and I think, like I've rattled on about football, and yeah, I think it's obviously very important. Just as a case of, do I practice what I preach? Maybe not, but I should. It's definitely something that I'm more conscious of now as I'm getting older, and you feel your bones go a little bit more, and you don't want to add, because being, kidney patients, we're both predisposed to like diabetes and other further risks. So why, maximize our chances of getting diabetes, for instance? So I think it's always good to stay at a healthy weight as well, generally speaking. So sports really do encourage that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said you've got plans to go back into it and you're climbing tomorrow. For me, it's a mental and physical release to get away from
Mm.
whatever you're going through, whatever you're thinking. So as long as
Yeah.
that can continue, it's been a big miss over the last year and a bit
Yes.
in
I've
lockdown.
missed it a lot.
But as long as you can keep doing something, I think that helps. His other question was, do you ever feel people treat you differently because of your conditions, especially in sports?
I think he's trolling a bit, Lewis. I think you should have a go at him. No, I think, do I feel like, uh, I think what he's trying to say is, do I make excuses for my performances on the football pitch? I think that's what he's trying to say. And the answer is yes, John Louis. Dr. John Louis, I do. I think I'm quite, because I play more as a hobby and a pastime. So I think I don't take it as seriously as some other footballers, maybe. Um, so yeah, I think I think, I don't even know how to answer that because I don't know.
Do you play together?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, I've nutmegged him fairly recently, and I think that was quite offensive to him. So I think he did celebrate with me, though. He did the Aubameyang and Lacazette handshake
Yeah.
after being nutmegged, and I think it was embarrassing for him because this was literally, like a few months after my transplant as well. So I've got no fitness, and I've dragged it back and nutmegged him, and I think that's been quite a pivotal pivotal point in our friendship, maybe. But yeah, I think yeah. You know what it is? I'll be completely honest though, jokes aside, I do make excuses. I think it's very easy to make excuses, but it ebbs and flows. Sometimes you feel confident and then sometimes you feel like I'm just gonna be so static in this game. I'm gonna be so, so yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Rolling through his legs though. You've got the bragging rights. So if you film it, you can get on
This is what I mean,
Soccer
yeah.
AM Meg Nuts of the Week.
Exactly.
A next question comes from Nav, and he says, "Sport." Actually, it's very similar to the question that came in from Cavi as well.
Okay.
Sports you would have enjoyed but couldn't because of your transplant, and were there any sports you really wished to participate in but were unable to due to your health?
Yeah, I think I'd say boxing. I'd say just combat kind of sports, definitely. I mean, karate was great, like in terms of discipline and stuff like that. But let's face it, not that I are in any way condoning fighting, but if you're in a real life situation and you're getting into a brawl, you're not going to sit there and do you're not going to get into kata position. You're not going to start doing a kata in the middle of a street. So, yeah, I think boxing, like definitely all of the contact, the physical, like the fighting sports. MMA looks so fun to me. It looks so fun. It's something that I would never do, unfortunately, because of I just feel like I'm put off. And yeah, I'd rather be able to walk properly and have that, have my kidneys working. So yeah. What about yourself? What about yourself?
I had
What
to
would
think
you
about
do?
this when I saw it. I'm not a big rugby fan, and I wasn't very good at school, so it wouldn't be that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really want to get hit in the face or punched and
Yeah.
kicked about, so maybe not anything, not any martial arts. And then another one I thought of, I don't know if it is going to be one that I couldn't do because of my transplant or not. Maybe with possible collisions and shunts, go karting.
Okay, yeah. I didn't even sorry, I'm so obviously narrow-minded. I didn't even think about go-karting would be, but surely we're allowed to do go-karting, like
Maybe you
competitive
can.
go-karting.
If anyone knows, then please do let me know. I just remember going
Yeah,
before
get
my
in touch.
transplant and getting sort of, if someone spins off and you go in head to head and you get
Of
that
course.
jolt.
Yeah, that's
Maybe it's
true.
my nervousness, but if that is possible, then great. I'd love to try it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely I'd still stand by my combat kind of, my the kind of physical combat kind of sports, I think definitely in my answer there.
And the final question comes from Ollie, and he says, on a scale of 1 to 10, why did he choose Arsenal? You know where that's come
Because
from.
and I say this with a straight face, because they're the best team in the world. That's why I support Arsenal. Because there's no other team. Name another team. I don't even. The thing is, mate, there's no gumption in what I'm saying. Like you've caught. Like we've had such a terrible season. Oh yeah, we've got a gold trophy. We have. It's incredible that you can go through a whole league invincible. It's incredible that we can win the league at Old Trafford in a gold Sega sponsored shirt. It's amazing that we can win the league that at the I was going to say something else there, but I'll say White Hart Lane instead of another word. Like our rivals, our hotly contested rivals, but that's all in the past, and I can't even justify it. As I have my Arsenal mug and I've been sipping from it today. Um, it's why Arsenal, because they are the best team, and also he's only recently got into football, so you can sit down, Ollie. West Ham till I die and all this, mate. He was not into West Ham before, but they're playing very well this season. So credit where
Oh,
credit's
yeah.
due. Credit where credit's due. How do you feel about Lingard going to you? This is going to go on. Sorry, I'm going to stop and we can, because I feel like your listeners, if guys, thank you for putting up with me. Lewis is fantastic. He's doing a great job. Don't take it out on him. still give him the views, still give him the listens, do all of that good stuff.
Thank
But
God,
yeah,
pleased for him. Everything he's been through recently, the last few years, seems to have had a tough
yeah.
time. Good to see him playing well, scoring, smiling, and
Mm.
David Moyes doing what he does. Sometimes
David
David Moyes
Moyes,
turns up, sometimes David Moyes turns up.
he does. He's been amazing. Whereas Mike RT, Mike RTT, he's not doing great. I don't know. Maybe we can have Sam Allardyce for next season. We'll see.
You never know. And speaking
Big
of Ollie, who
Sam.
sent that question in, thank you for everyone who sent them in.
Mm,
Yourself and Ollie host the Professional Patients podcast.
we do.
You've mentioned why you started it, wanted to help other people share your experience. For anyone who hasn't listened, how would you describe the podcast? And if you want to elaborate more, the reasons for you doing it.
Why did we start a podcast? We're just good mates. We've both had health problems since birth, and we just wanted to kind of, I think, the tagline, so to speak, is just shed light on the heavier things in our life. As you know, we're quite kind of, good humored. Like, we don't really take things seriously. So it's not really an educational podcast. It's more a case of you just talk about our own experiences and our experiences with, like you said earlier on, like, how to adapt during school or transplant, or, we're going on to talk about relationships and friendships and everything. So yeah, like, I mean, I'm really bad at like promoting stuff, to be honest, because we just enjoy doing it, and it's just that's all it is. But yeah, like I think it's been a really, really nice experience, and I mean, it's always a pleasure to see him and chat with him. But it's just tune in if you think you get it, enjoy it, whatever it is. We're on at Professional Patients on Instagram. We don't have a Twitter, just like Lewis here. We don't have. No, that's it. It's just Twitter, isn't it? I was just thinking if there's something else, but no, there isn't. Sorry, I just went into my own world there. At Professional Patients on Instagram. Give us a follow, give us a like, and all that jazz. Tune in though. Let us know what you think, and let us know what you want to hear as well, because we've got lots of guests and things lined up. So I'm sure Ollie, when I was tuning into Ollie, he did a much neater version of this. I'm just rambling here, but
He said you'd hope we do it as well.
yeah, I'm terrible at promoting. I'm really bad. This is why I need an agent in general life, I think. But yeah, or maybe I can just have you, just whatever. We'll record a voiceover with you, and then we'll just play it at the end of our episodes. But yeah, at Professional Patients.
It's a brilliant podcast to listen to. Very easy to listen to as well. The vibe, the feel of it is good. You obviously get on well and bounce off each other. So yeah, go and have a
Yeah.
listen. It's very interesting, very entertaining. And I asked Ollie this same question as well. What are your goals for it going forward?
Firstly, thanks, mate, for your kind words. You definitely did a better job at selling it than I did. What are our goals for going forward? You know what? Anything's possible. I think we've had some really overwhelming responses, and we've got some really interesting things. Unfortunately, I can't speak too much about it, but I've got a massive smile on my face. So we've got some really interesting things coming up, and some collaborations possibly and other things. Yeah, I think what it comes down to is we're finding it quite therapeutic, and we know there's so many people. It's all about, like, recently we did an episode, and I'm not, about kind of the leave them certain campaign, and it's the stress is on just having a conversation. You never know who you're going to talk to. You never know where, you never know who's listening to your podcast. You never know how far it's going to reach, and it all comes down to that person might make the decision. You know what? I'm going to sign on to the organ donor register. I'm going to actually, maybe be an altruistic donor, or I'm going to do this or that, and that's what it really comes down to be completely honest with you.
You put it so well there as well.
Thank you. Rare for me.
You can have a gold star now.
Oh, cheers, man.
Ruben, it's been a pleasure to chat to you today. And I think
Thank
people will
you.
learn from your experiences of 2 transplants. And if anyone's listening to this who is at school or a parent of somebody at school, I think they'll be able to learn from your experience and
Yeah, and
how
get in
you got
touch.
through it.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off as you were winding off, but get in touch with me. Like sorry, I don't mean to plug, but I'm just going to say, because
Fire away.
like, yeah, my Instagram is at onlybuilt4 Ruben Links and X with it. This is really difficult. Basically, one of my favorite rappers called Raekwon, he's got an album called Only Built for Cuban Links. So I just changed the C with an R. Big fan of the Wu-Tang Clan for anyone else who's listening and who knows. But yeah, basically that's me. That's where you'll find me. But if not, obviously find us through Professional Patients. And drop a DM, and we can only give you our experiences. But, always happy to chat. It's always good to share, and thank you for listening, and thank you for having me on, obviously.
No
And
problem.
sorry for taking so much of your time, guys.
One more question before we go.
Oh, come on,
It's
Lewis.
it's what
I'm
I ask
playing. Go on.
everyone.
Go on.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone facing a transplant?
I thought you were going to ask me, like, what's your favorite sandwich? What's your favorite color? No, I know, because you asked this.
Who would win
What's
in
my
a fight
one
between, or what would you rather
between?
fight? One duck-sized horse? No, is that right? One horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I'm going to go with I'm going to go with a horse, I think. But I just feel like the whole idea of killing animals, I don't even squash. I've gone soft, mate. I don't even squash ants anymore. So I don't even think I could approach that question and take the life of any animal. Yeah.
Think of the third option.
Yeah. Is there a third option? Walk away. Walk away. Whereas if you threw my old PE teacher into the mix, then I might have a different answer. No, I'm playing. To actually give you an answer to the to the legit question. What is my one bit of advice? Just breathe in every moment. I think it's something that there is no right or wrong way to go through it. Just experience. Just be still and take the moment in, and always know that there are people that you can talk to. If it's not always comfortable to chat about these things. It's so funny. Like, growing up, I never used to speak about this stuff, but now I have a podcast with a mate, and I'm talking about my stuff, and it really helps me, and it's so easy to internalize things. So yeah, I would just say, you always ask questions if you feel unsure, or if you want to learn more about something. Why is this treatment happening, or why am I doing this, or why am I doing that? Always ask questions and just experience it, I guess. Such a terrible quote. I don't know why.
I think
Yeah,
people understand that, and there we
I
go.
hope so.
There's your one piece of advice at the end. If you're enjoying the podcast, please make sure you press subscribe, follow wherever you're listening. If you're enjoying it, please tell your friends and family. They might like it too. You might know other people, transplant related, long-term illness related, or not, just sports fans. Anyone can listen and hopefully take something from the uplifting stories. And if you don't like it, please tell your friends you did anyway, because we'll take them.
Yeah. And also, like Lewis said last podcast with Ollie, grab your nan's phone, grab your granddad's phone, go on there, chuck in Transplant Takes on Spot. You'll find us as well. You'll find professional patients. Give him a subscribe. Love that technique. Not the most advisable technique, but as long as it's people you know and not strangers on the tube or the train, then you're good.
Of course, yeah.
Sorry, I'm going on a different direction. I am.
That's fine.
Yeah.
If you listen on Apple Podcasts, it would mean a massive amount to me if you could rate it 5 stars on there. And if you leave a review along with your 5-star rating, I'll read it out on the podcast at the end. And the 5-star ratings really do help spread the podcast to other people, help more people discover it on the app, and hopefully bring in more people to this community. And if we, as Ruben said, if we can help one person, it's been a success. Thank you also to the anonymous person who used the Acast supporter feature, which is the little voice you hear at the start of the podcast. That's not me saying, love this podcast, use it, and then something else.
Oh, really? That's wicked.
Thank you for clicking on that link in the show notes and donating £10. It really does help to keep the podcast growing, keep it continuing for the future. I'm not going to push that. It's just if you do want to, then it's greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to share your story, if you'd like to come on and be a guest, or if you know anyone who might be a good guest, please email in transplantstakeonsport@gmail.com. I'd love to read your story and hopefully get you on the podcast as well and have a chat like we've done today. Thank you once again to my guest, Ruban Nathan. I've been Lewis Daniels, and you've been listening to Transplant's Take on Sport.